Thank you everyone for joining us for the 2026 Alum Panel. These events are always so informative and helpful to potential new families, current families. They're fun for our fellow alum friends to join and to watch, so thank you so much for being here. I'm Catherine Lally. I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator at AWS. Also on the call is Vicki Luca, who is our Admissions and Enrollment Director, and she's going to help with some behind the scenes logistics. So for the next hour or so, we're going to just have a pretty casual chat. I have some prepared questions, but we'll see where the conversation goes. And then we'll open it up to questions from the other participants. So what I'd like to start doing is I'm going to share my screen and we can just read through our participant bios together and welcome our guest. So we have Rami Balio with us. Rami is an American artist who lives and works in Northampton, Massachusetts. Her work involves perceptual development via academic drawing and painting fundamentals. She is the recipient of grants and merit scholarships from ASL New York, Studio Escalier, and Vermont Studio Center, and exhibits work locally and internationally. Classically trained in figure drawing and painting, she studied with Studio Escalier, the New York Academy of Art, Florence Academy, the Writers Studio, the Art Students League of New York, and the Kairos Art Therapy Program through the Center for Anthroposophy. Rami holds a BA from Hampshire College and the MFA from the New York Academy of Art, where she's currently a faculty member. She teaches in Northampton, Massachusetts, and additionally with Portfolio Works Paris and the Hartsbrook Waldorf School. And we'll mention that Rami graduated from AWS in 2002. We have Claire Denies with us. Claire is a national board certified health and wellness coach and the founder of Nourish Holistic Living. Through a mindfulness-based client-centered approach, she guides her clients in cultivating more ease, clarity, and alignment in their everyday lives. In addition to virtual coaching, Claire offers in-person classes, workshops, and retreats in the Western New York area. She also leads a mindfulness meditation group for young adults that's been meeting weekly since 2019. Claire was with AWS from kindergarten through 8th grade, and we're excited to hear more about how her experiences helped shape her appreciation for mindfulness, connection, and whole person well-being. Claire graduated in 2012 from AWS. Susan Kornacki is one of Rami's classmates from 2002. Susan focused her career on environmental sustainability programs and community-driven solutions to food security. Through her work as an event planning and marketing professional, she led tree planting efforts at the Million Trees New York City initiative and at the New York City Parks Department, fundraising at Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper, and events and social media at the Montgomery County Department of Environmental Protection. In time, she worked to braid together her passion for environmental activism with public health and research. She was awarded a fellowship to pursue a master's in public health with the Bloomberg American Health Initiative at Johns Hopkins University. She then worked as a consultant with the Montgomery County Food Council in Central Maryland, managing food security programs as part of a broader county-wide strategy to pandemic response programs. She is currently a full-time caregiver to a wonderful creative toddler, and it's been super fun because that toddler and Susan are currently at our school attending our parent-toddler program. Sawyer Oob was supposed to be with us, and he's not able to be with us. I would encourage everyone to visit our website after the panel. There's an article of an interview with Sawyer where he talks at length about how his experiences at AWS, particularly with eurythmy, which is very interesting to hear about how eurythmy impacts his work every day as a Steadicam operator on feature films, including last year's Academy Award for Best Picture. So check that out later. Peter Mandich graduated AWS in 2005. He lives in Vermont and works for Northeast Wilderness Trust, a regional land trust focused exclusively on forever wild conservation. Peter's career experience includes guiding young adults on multi-week expeditions in the Mountain West, practicing commercial real estate law at a large firm in Boston, and owning and operating an inn-to-inn hiking tour company. Peter can hopefully tell us more about his hobbies, including recipes, audiobooks, and spending time outdoors with his wife and toddler. And Violet's on the call. Violet graduated last year in 2025. She currently attends East Aurora High School, and I just heard is the East Aurora Science Student of the Month for last month. Ooh, let me just get us back to our call. Here we go. So congratulations on that, Violet.
Thank you.
So I want to just kick things off a little bit by asking, and whoever, all these questions, whoever wants to answer, how do you explain where you went to school to someone who has never heard about Waldorf education? I'm sure you've run into this throughout your life.
I can start us. I tend to say it's a therapeutic education that involves experiential learning, and then I'll get into describing um, how the environment is and the rhythm of the day is kind of is curated to kind of match the natural rhythms of a child, and the developmental stages of every age are considered as far as emotional development, as far as the development of thinking goes, and the physical body.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone else encounter this question when speaking about your childhood or your upbringing and someone says, where you went to what school? What does that mean?
Yeah, I do all the time. I I think I love what Rami said, and I think I say my version of that. I say it's an independent school that celebrates a lot of access to outdoor movement and education and the arts. And I have, in adulthood, I have found the language to say that I think it's a form of education that addresses the needs of many different learning styles. Like I know as a child, I needed to move a lot. I needed to be outside. I needed to be breathing fresh air. And I needed sort of a combination of those things throughout the day, as well as like more introspective time. And I just feel like Waldorf really gave me that. So that's usually what I say.
Yes.
Yeah,
Violet, do you encounter this in now that you're transitioned to high school? When you're making new friends at school, do you have conversations about how your education was different or maybe in some ways the same? What is that like for you?
When everyone hears that I went to Waldorf, they have no idea what it is. You went where? So it takes a lot of explaining, but I usually try and tell people that it's just a very creative school and that you try so many new things that you wouldn't get to do in public school. And it was fun.
That's great. Does anyone
I would
have any?
say,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Peter.
oh, it's all right. I was going to say after we get past the Waldorf School of Witchcraft and Wizardry jokes, I typically talk about similar to Susan, but we spend a lot of time outdoors, like a lot of time in a really good way, rain or shine, and that together with the balance of hands-on skill development and the academic work, I think just makes for really well-rounded, resilient kids. But I come back to that time outdoors. Like, I don't think anyone would argue that kids these days are more connected to nature than they were 20, 30, 40 years ago. So I really think that the hours those kids get to spend outdoors, rain or shine, that continues to be an appreciating asset and will be, their whole lives, I think, for most of them. So that's, there were a lot of other good things as well, but that's really the big standout piece that's informed a lot of my life and career too.
Definitely, we often hear, even from current students, that that's one of their favorite aspects of our school is the time outside. Are there other angles that any of you would share that is something that you really loved being a part of during your time at AWS or something that you feel really impacted and influenced who you have become?
I would say the connection with the teachers was very impactful. Um, it, it's I mean, this might, I'm sure it's true in different uh, education settings besides Waldorf, but certainly at Waldorf School, it's part of the goals of all the teachers is to see who every individual is, and connect with them, and they care about you, and with someone who really sees you and cares about you, teaching you, you actually really connect with them and get excited to learn, and it can help bring you out of yourself. So that's something I look back on and really appreciate. And when I teach today, that's exactly how I do it.
Mm. Yeah, I think something that like whenever I think of like my experience of Waldorf education, some like a word that comes to mind for me is like embodied. And I feel like not only through, like head, heart, and hands, like interweaving, like thinking, feeling, and doing, but also just how everything is so intentional and connected in what we're learning and how we're learning. So, like, for example, in fifth grade, when we would be learning about Greek history and mythology, we would then also participate in like Greek pentathlon or like Olympics and do javelin and discus and all these different things. And yeah, I just think like that way of learning where it's, yes, you're learning um, in like an academic sense, but then you're also learning through doing and through experiencing. And so I think that just brings so much depth to the learning and it really sticks with you like for so much longer than just like learning from a textbook or something like that.
Absolutely. Violet, when you look back, being our most recent graduate, what are some of the favorite things that really come to mind immediately when you think about your time with us?
I mean, I really loved all the trips we got to take. That was probably my favorite part of Waldorf, especially our last trip to New York. Because like I didn't know that was something you could do through school. It was just like a regular vacation. And that was really fun because I got to go with all my friends. And also I really like how small the classes are. So you kind of get to be friends with everybody. There's no like certain groups of friends. It's all just one big group.
Let's talk a little bit about that social piece. How have you found that the way that you learned to interact with your peers and adults at AWS, did that inform or influence your growing into an adult life or your career in any way? I think oftentimes now we talk about kids don't have proper manners or they don't know how to speak with adults or they don't know how to have proper conversation. Did you find that any of that was helpful for you, or were there skills that you felt you didn't have leaving AWS?
It
Me?
hands down gave me better manners and better skills connecting with people. That has been massively impactful. I when I was hired at the New York Academy of Art, they said, "Oh, you're a people person," like, and I'm like, "Yep." Yeah, so yeah, growing up in that kind of environment and having behavior and connection emphasized so much with teachers and with your classmates, is pretty foundational. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like something that immediately came to mind when you asked this question is the aspect of like every single morning when we would arrive at school, like our our teacher would greet us like at the classroom door and like shake our hand and like make eye contact and say like good morning. And so yeah, I think just like that aspect of like interpersonal connection was just instilled in like everything at Waldorf and just like learning to work in harmony with others and in community. And it was really about the collective, and leaning into people's strengths as well in community and also like growing wherever our weaknesses were, like growing in those areas as well. So it definitely has influenced like just, yeah, my that aspect of my life as well.
How about friendship wise? Claire, you spoke on how the small classes were lovely. I think Violet, you mentioned that as well. Are you still in touch with friends from your class, or do you feel that there was something about the way growing up that influenced how you make friendships going forward or foster friendships?
I'm definitely still in touch with many dear friends, including Rami um and I'm Susan. I don't think I properly introduced myself when I first spoke up. So hello everyone. And it's so nice to see so many familiar faces. Thank you all for, including me. Thank you, Catherine, for including me.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are profound friendships that have nourished me through many major life transitions. My dear Waldorf friends and dear teachers who I reach out to and I try to keep up with when I can. And I'm very thankful for them. I've been thinking about why those friendships are so deep and so strong. And I think it has something to do with the many opportunities, at least in my experience, you get at the Waldorf School to just organically hang out and share experiences with other kids. And like, I picture us playing outside and hiking down to the creek, like situations where I'm sure there was structure and there was certainly safety, but we were just messing around in the woods. And I think that was very bonding. And for me, in my experience at Waldorf, I felt seen. I felt known by teachers and by students around me. And I think that probably is part of it too, that like I found my people and I was lucky to find some of them really early in life and very lucky to still have them in my life. So yeah, I think that has helped me seek out friends who make me feel seen and to try to be that kind of friend too.
Yes. Peter, you spoke briefly about the outdoors, and I know that I had an opportunity a couple years ago to interview Peter for an alum piece and really hear about how the outdoors has clearly shaped your career and a lot of your professional decisions and pathways. Can you speak a little bit more, and I'd love to hear from others as well, about what experiences or influences or academic focuses at AWS shaped where you landed in your career, and how does that continue to shape you today?
Just the small questions this evening, then, Catherine. Yeah, it's let's see. There are a few pieces in there, but as far as the outdoors and love and care for nature, I mean, at a simple level, you won't care about protecting something if you don't have some love for it, and you're not going to love something if you're never exposed to it, in a really deep, engaging way. And I think that there's just like I was saying earlier, there's a certain resilience that comes with um, showing kids you don't have to be afraid of rain and mud and ice and snow, and like there's a safe way to do things, but um, that there's not like a, a bad kind of nature or outdoor experience and modeling that from a really early age. It's one thing if you and some friends like being outside and maybe you're kind of the um, exception in your school and people have different hobbies, but if the expectation is that everyone is just going to be outside for a certain number of hours every day, you kind of, I mean, you almost start to take it for granted, I think, at that age, and then realize much later how special that is. Um, but there also wasn't, I appreciated then and now too that there wasn't a um, really specific targeted lesson plan associated with every outdoor experience. Like I think a lot of times um, kids will get outside in the context of like a science class or something, and that's important, certainly, especially when kids get older. But a lot of it was just messing around and experimenting and seeing what this type of snow would do, and um, putting on cross country skis and getting down to the creek. Like I would defy you to find a better, more capable group of cross country skiers. Like I don't know if our style was the best, but we could ski anything by the end of those classes. Um, and I think having that exposure in turn engenders a certain amount of respect for the natural world. And it's hard to view it any other way. I think having those formative experiences early on, and even my friends and peers who who didn't necessarily pursue a career in environmental or outdoor work still speak very fondly of those days outdoors, and particularly we were lucky to do a eighth grade class trip to Hawk Circle, which was really formative and memorable for a lot of us in my class. Um, so later on, when I had the opportunity to make the natural world more part of my professional career, I was eager to go that path. And absolutely, I think those early years from really from kindergarten all the way through eighth grade, which is when I left, were really, really special and formative. I forgot the rest of your questions, but
That was
I
great.
hope that answers some of it.
Thank you. Can anyone else speak to lessons or particular academic aspects of AWS that informed your career later or that you're looking back on now even and referencing in your daily life or career life, whatever it is that.
Actually, I've got one more for you, Catherine. I think two things, not related to outdoors specifically, but that I think are increasingly rare and so increasingly valuable in adults in society and the workforce generally. We had a lot of practice being empathetic. We had a lot of practice giving and receiving feedback in a constructive way. And again, those are two things I think were easy to take for granted at the time because you're a kid and you don't know any better. But those are really rare commodities in most industries and just most of adult society today. Having some empathy for people who are very different from you or have different ideas, and then also understanding that a supervisor or a peer or a teacher can give you feedback or constructive criticism and is meant in a caring and productive way, and it's not intended as some kind of a personal affront. And really practicing that uh, continues to serve me well many years later. And just one of those things where I didn't fully appreciate at the time, but now looking back, that was a really special part of that education.
Nice. Rami, you being clearly a very accomplished artist and also teaching at a Waldorf school, which is so interesting, I would love to hear a little bit about your path. And did you feel that our school was really able to foster your artistic talents? Do you think that if you had gone to a different school, would you have had a slightly different path? How do you feel about that?
Oh, I love that question. It like absolutely Waldorf kind of fed into to what I do now. It basically, so in my experience in grad school, when and I studied painting in graduate school, um, and everyone's coming up with their work that's representative of who they are as an artist. Um, it's a lot of a lot of peers were struggling with I don't know what to paint. Um, and I struggled with plenty of things as I was learning, as everyone does. Um, but I never had a lack of kind of what to do. Like I can sit down and draw and paint pretty much anything. And it didn't occur to me until years after Waldorf school, just how much experience we got with drawing and painting every day and basically absorbing imagery into our imagination by actually drawing it ourselves. We learn to draw trees, for example, by practicing that. Um, and by I don't know if it was seventh grade where we studied um, botany, but I have memories of um, the ooh, let's see if I do have the memories. The and I'm also nervous speaking to everyone right now. FYI. Um,
You're doing
the,
great,
so if
Rami.
I say that out loud, I will, but that's why the memory is not coming to me. Oh, just the different parts of the flower, the pistil and the stamen and well, petals. But essentially we would sit there and draw every detail of it. And I think back to what Claire was saying, interacting with it through drawing it is just another way of wrapping your brain around it. And so when I draw and paint now, I find myself, whatever it is I'm working on, it's just a way to really spend time studying it and engaging it, and also um, seeing who you are in relation to that in the process. It's a lot of time understanding how you think and feel in relation to the world, and then the residue of that is there on the page, and you can look at it and edit it as you choose. But absolutely, I would say the experience with um, drawing and painting as a part of almost every lesson we learned there. For me, it turned visual art into a little bit more of a language that similar to studying writing. We just had a lot of exposure to that. And I see that now in the Waldorf students I work with, where um, everyone is very experienced with mixing color and drawing from imagination, and I'll come in with fifth, sixth, and seventh grade to start helping them, adding a little bit more thinking into their work, a little more structure to the drawings at that age.
Okay, thank you. Rami, when you're speaking, what's coming to mind for me is the science labs that our students create, and that you all probably have memories of creating main lesson books for science, and how there's that integration of the art and the learning and the scientific process, and something very academically heavy, but then also translated through the art, and how that can help solidify that information in your brain and whatnot. And Violet, I'm thinking about your recent Science Student of the Month, and your career essentially right now is to be a high school student, right? So how did you feel about your science curriculum in particular and incorporating the art into that? And did that prepare you? Clearly, it did prepare you for what you're doing in high school, but tell us a little bit about what's the curriculum like for you now, and did you feel the science at AWS helped you get ready for that?
Oh, it definitely did. Because even the kids went to public school that took the previous science for earth science I'm in right now, like I'm still really ahead.
Hmm.
And I think Waldorf education really just prepared me for earth science. And then especially when I take biology next year, I really hope I'm going to continue to do well.
Nice. Would anyone else like to speak to anything that they carry with them? Susan, when I'm thinking of your career and just the bit that we've gotten to know each other over the years, I see and hear empathy, I hear environment, I hear protection, I hear interpersonal skills, and you're parenting now, which requires a lot of patience and empathy and interpersonal skills as well. So what are some things that you reference as you move through life recently?
Oh, thank you for asking, Katie. I feel the challenge is streamlining because I think about that all the time. I've been reading a lot about mindfulness and really basic tools we can teach kids to help them with their stress management because I'm coming out of my master's degree. We learned a lot about mental health challenges, especially that young people and adolescents experience. And I'm just kind of thinking about, raising a little boy in this world. I just want to make sure to raise him with tools that can help him navigate a whole range of emotional experiences for himself and for others. And I noticed I'm doing things that I learned at school. So one specific thing is, I think it was in fifth grade. I can't remember the year, but we did a weather unit, and every morning we would go outside and we would take a moment and use all of our senses to observe what was occurring in the world around us. And then we would just journal briefly about it in our weather journals inside. And so I do that almost every day with my son, if he's in the, in the mood, he's 2.5, but I have been reading that just stepping outside and taking a deep breath can, in fact, be a really simple way of like practicing a bit of mindfulness and settling your nervous system. But I feel so fortunate that I got to do that regularly as a preteen, and just that's a part of my muscle memory, I guess, in a way. Um, and I echo what Peter said about empathy. I think that it is I think that's a muscle too, that in a way, an emotional muscle that we can kind of develop over time, especially with role models and teachers and fellow students who care about being empathetic and are practicing it. And I feel like that was happening at the Waldorf School in my years there. And I think that has drawn me to workplaces that center empathy and that attract other colleagues who empathize with human beings and with our planet, because I think we have to empathize with it if we're going to save it. And I've just been noticing that I'm kind of drawn to people who operate that way, and I think it goes back to the Waldorf School. So I hope that answers your question.
Helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a question that we receive very often, being a pre-K through 8 school, is how is the transition to high school? I would say that's one of our top concerns that we hear from parents and caregivers. How is that transition? Are you academically prepared? Are you socially prepared? So I would love if we all could just speak a little bit to what were the challenges? What were the easy areas? What did we find worked well? And did we feel that we were academically prepared? Obviously, at AWS, we have different curriculum, different learning style than is going on in other high school settings. But hopefully it's one that is preparing students for high school and beyond. So Violet, since you are our current high school representative, I would love if you could speak a little bit about how was that transition for you this year? What was challenging? What was easy? And you mentioned earlier, at least in the science aspect, that you do feel that you were prepared, but how about other subjects? How about math? How about reading? How's that all going?
So as far as academics go, I was definitely very prepared. I'm doing really well in all my classes. I think socially I was prepared too, but it was definitely a struggle the first few days because I didn't know anyone other than the Waldorf kids, and I didn't get to see them. And there wasn't really anybody there to tell me like what to do and how to operate in a public school. And I feel like that was kind of Easter. I always felt like there really should have been someone there for me. But I really just had to like find it in myself to step up to public school and realize that it wasn't so small anymore. But I could do it, and I'm fitting in really great now.
Great. That's great to hear.
Violet, I also went to East Aurora from ninth grade onward. So um, if you're still having a hard time, I promise it does get easier. I think that I absolutely agree. My experience was very similar, it sounds like, to yours. Academics were quite easy once you kind of figured out some of the standardized testing games you have to play. It could be a little bit frustrating, but overall, like I found that myself and a couple of my Waldorf peers were very good at asking questions at like you said so well, Violet, I think figuring it out. Like sometimes we just encounter unfamiliar situations, and the ability to kind of hang with it and figure it out is really, really valuable. Um, socially, I have to say it helped that I got involved in sports a little bit. It's just kind of it never hurts to meet people before school even starts. But I do think that after those first few weeks, I made friends pretty quickly. But yeah, there were inevitably some aspects of going to a medium large public school that were a little bit jarring at first after you basically have been with really the same family for 8, 10, 11 years. But I think that both myself and my classmates who went to public school adapted pretty quickly. Um, and it was, yeah, the academics were no problem, and I think my peers would echo that.
Yeah, I would agree. Like academics, like that was no problem transitioning. My year, I also at East Aurora, me and the other few Waldorf students were like the Waldorf school was referred to as the smart school. Like
Right.
yeah, like learning wasn't an issue. Like we had the Waldorf skill of connecting with the teachers. And as far as the social transition goes, for me, I find like if I have something to do, I'm fine. So so if you like put me in a classroom and we're learning something and there's an activity organized by the teacher, that part went relatively smoothly. Um, and yes, there were behaviors that I hadn't seen in our cozy little Waldorf community that um, were, I don't know, good to realize that that's out there in the world. And I think I was a little bit, I was just excited to kind of see what public school is about, but I do
Same.
find that when I look back, my most vivid memories that I still retain of like, everything I've learned are from Waldorf school. When I'm tracing it back to public school, it's with the teachers I connected with, but the teachers that I didn't, I really I don't remember as much of that. Although at the time I like academically did fine with it. It was no problem. Yeah.
Claire, how about you? How was your transition? Did you feel prepared? Is there anything that didn't flow well for you?
Yeah, so I guess my experience and transition was a bit more unique. Um, After eighth grade, a bunch of the students and families in eighth grade, and as well as like we at that point had a Waldorf high school for a little bit. It was during those years. So like one of my brothers was in 10th grade at that point. So like ninth and 10th graders were also wondering what to do after that ended. So yeah, a bunch of the families, we visited a bunch of different schools, both public and private, and we decided we weren't really finding what we were looking for, so we decided to create it ourselves. And we came together and created a homeschool study center called Academe of Aurora. And so it was sort of like a mini Waldorf high school. There were 14 students total across like freshman through senior year, like ninth through 12th grade. And we met in person, had our usual like classes in different subjects, different teachers, whether it was parents who were experts in specific areas or different community members that were experts in different areas. They would teach us different subjects. And there was also a lot of like self-directed learning as well. Um, and so I feel like the transition, it was still a transition because it was much smaller and it was just something new. So like anytime we're doing something unfamiliar or new, it's a bit of a transition, but I felt like I was very well prepared for navigating all of that. And there was a lot more self-directed learning as well. So I felt well prepared for that, um, even though there were aspects of like the actual Waldorf school that I missed, like I ended up transitioning perfectly fine academically, socially, like yeah, it ended up being perfectly fine and a really wonderful time in high school. Like I'm very grateful that I was able to be a part of that group. Yeah.
What about any critiques? I think it's reasonable to think, well, Catherine has put together this panel that is only going to say beautiful things about AWS and life and learning and all these things. But are there any critiques? Are there things that maybe you look back on and think maybe we could have done that a little differently? Yes, yes, Violet.
So I know the whole thing with Waldorf is like very limited exposure to technology, but that was a really big struggle for me this year because pretty much every class is mostly on the computer except art and math. But I had no idea how to use a computer really, because we did do a little bit of it in eighth grade, just like typing up reports and stuff. And when we were doing it, I'm like, why are we doing this? This is Waldorf. The whole thing is no tech. But now I really wish I'd done more of that because it was a really big struggle for me. And there was really nobody to help me get through it because nobody had ever heard of that. I couldn't like type up a document before. That was just unheard of at public school.
So there was an assumption at school that everyone would know how to use various technologies in high school. Yeah.
I'll second the technology one. I like when I went to high school, it was at a time where not everything was on a computer. So like I think there was like we didn't even have computer lab. We did like a little computer work in the library at some point, typing up a bibliography. Um, but so less extreme than what you're currently in the midst of, Violet. But I know that yes, I had to kind of gradually dip my toes into learning to work on computers, and now I teach in person, but I also teach online, and I run a business online, so I'm well acquainted now, but it was a conscious effort to kind of walk myself through the steps and say, okay, like I can press a button, nothing's gonna explode, and just like learn to experiment the same way I would experientially in a in-person classroom, in that two-dimensional world of the computer. So it was a little bit of an exploration process, but I definitely noticed that disconnect. And I would say for me, I'm incredibly grateful to have had the time without it because I know how easy it is to just get glued to your phone, or if you're just watching a movie, there's all these thoughts getting put into your head that you're not even thinking on your own. They're just happening to you. And so when you take yourself away from all that, you really get to know yourself in the world in a more interactive way. And I feel like I'm much more of an alive, creative person because of it. So I was happy to later have to kind of face the learn technology, but it was something that I had to kind of actively pursue. Yeah.
Mhm. Violet, how do you feel? What would be an ideal solution there? Would it be to bring in more tech for our current eighth graders? Would it be something over the summer? Are you still feeling that our model of very low tech in the classroom is important, or is it outdated in your opinion?
So I definitely feel that limited exposure technology is very important. I mean, I've sort of really gotten used to it just in the past couple of months, so it hasn't taken me that long to adjust. I really think just introducing a little bit more, maybe even just the last few months of eighth grade, would have really helped me be better prepared.
Mhm.
Just especially with book reports and projects, just doing a little bit of work on the computer could have really helped.
Yeah, thank you. So this is some transitioning to something I did want to talk about because more and more, Rudolf Steiner, founder of Waldorf education, and even early Waldorf educators and the founders of our school back in 1991 could not have imagined the infiltration of technology into everyday life and especially into young people's lives. And the current conversations around the spikes in anxiety in youth and attention spans and mental health and all of these things that are pointing back to this overuse of technology and this dependence, specifically certain types of technology more than others, but smartphones, social media, and now moving into the age of AI, right? And a lot of interesting conversations around AI and how will we integrate that into our lives. How does this affect Waldorf education in your opinion? And does Waldorf education prepare people for a life that is and will be more and more infiltrated with technology?
I think so, yes. At least I guess I can only speak from my own experience, but is blending for me, like my memories of being at the Waldorf school and also like where my core values are coming in now as I'm parenting. But the truth is that I am seeking ways to build a community around our little family that values some screen-free time and some time for our kiddo to just be a child, just play, just embrace the world, just experience reality, not a filtered reality through a screen. And I really believe that the Waldorf School is an excellent place to get started with that for our son. It has definitely made me reflect on the fact that I got to be a child and a teenager before social media were really tools, at least tools that I had access to, you know. Um, I think that, yeah, I'm excited to be part of a place that I think values, in my opinion, like protecting childhood and including maybe screen free is a little strong. I saw there's like an online civics class or some exploring that topic at the Waldorf School right now, which I think is very important. Um, but that is, I think that is special and important. Um, yeah, and worth looking for.
Yeah, I would say like Waldorf school gave me the time without uh screens and media, and when I had more eventually had more exposure to that, like it is addictive. Especially like Instagram, Facebook, the algorithms are designed to uh, kind of match shortened attention spans, and um, it's not a great thing to sit there and do, and yet you can find yourself endlessly scrolling, and without having so much exposure to healthier lifestyles without that, I could see myself getting sucked into really bad habits longer. But having had the prior experiences and without that, knowing, why was I so much happier then? I can think back and say, oh, I was going outside, I was taking walks, I was sitting in a circle knitting and talking to people. Massive foundation to pull myself away from all of that now because it is so prevalent and it is easy to get sucked into it on a daily basis.
Violet, did you have a thought?
Yes. I would definitely say that Waldorf did prepare me to live in a world of tech without relying on it too much. Like, I'm the only one of my friends who doesn't want to have a phone, and I
Mhm.
never use social media. I begrudgingly text people, and like I'm the only one I see who doesn't bring a phone on the bus and just scroll the whole bus ride. What I do is I like just look at the window and make up stories about like these little woodland characters I've made up. And I'm just starting to realize how rare that is because I think so much exposure to technology so young just stunts your imagination and your ability to think without something doing the thinking for you.
Well, also, correct me if I'm wrong, Violet, but I bet that you could, if you wanted to or you had to, you could probably pick up an iPad and figure out how to use it in less, probably in a couple hours. But I think you could have all the money in the world and you can't later buy a minimal technology or technology free childhood. Like
Yeah.
Susan was saying, like really protecting that um, special time of childhood is truly invaluable. And I think, there's always going to be new technology. Like AI is just the latest thing to adapt to, and the key there being adaptability. Like that's a skill that I think Waldorf teaches very well. Um, if not explicitly, it's just implied in virtually all the all the things we learned there. Um, so having the ability to adapt, I think, is much more important than, like maybe typing's valuable. That you can make an argument for that, but it's really easy in this day and age to pick up technology skills later on, I think. but you're never going to be able to go back and remove social media from childhood after the fact. And I also think there's something to be said for all of your peers, for the most part, having a similar lack of smartphones at a certain age. Like, it's really hard if you're a parent these days, and let's say you got a kid in public school. There's a lot of social pressure, I think, in kind of a negative way for kids to get technology and social media earlier and earlier. And both as a kid and as a parent, I think that can be hard to resist if everyone around you is doing one thing. I think a real benefit of Waldorf is if uh, all of your friends and classmates are also similarly technology free or kind of minimal tech. Like, that's a great benefit. It removes some of the pressure, I think.
I want to add in, or if that's all right, like that also, I as Waldorf alum have not come away being anti-technology because I feel like sometimes we can come off that way, and like I use it every day for work, and I think it's incredibly helpful. But it's essentially taught me moderation, which I think we all know is important. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say like in regards to technology, like I am so grateful that it wasn't like a big part of my life growing up. And I wouldn't change that in any way. Like I'm so grateful. Like it could have, like other people have been sharing, like it could have chipped away at so much of my time, but instead I spent that time doing like meaningful things and like engaging with other humans and like nature and creating things and learning new things. So I'm like really grateful that technology wasn't a big part of my life growing up. And also like I think having that foundation of really living life, like life actually happening like in front of us, it does set us up for like using technology in a more skillful way and in a more intentional way, I think, because yeah, it is designed to be addictive. Like it's designed to keep us on it. Like, and so I think just like having that experience of not having relied on it in any way growing up can really inform like how do we relate to it now. Um, and yeah, I'm not like anti-tech either. Like I see that it does have a place, especially like as you get older. And I use it all the time in my business as well. So I'm very grateful for it. And I'm also extremely grateful that it wasn't a big part of my life until like I was much older. Yeah.
I would
Katie,
like to, oh, go
oh,
ahead, Susan.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just have one thought about AI because I'm thinking about it a lot. There's a lot of really scary news coverage. It's my wife does cybersecurity. I'm sort of aware of the potential implications of this really interesting but very powerful new phase. And something she and I have discussed and that I've been thinking about is that as human beings, when we engage with any kind of AI program, critical thinking is so important to know which questions to ask, to know how to evaluate the product. Let's say you prompt an AI to write something for you, which kind of makes me sad, but I know it's a real thing. It exists. It's happening constantly, right? But if let's say I were to ask an AI program to produce a piece of writing for me, I still need to use my skills as a writer to evaluate that and to determine how it will land with my interlocutor and with the recipient of it. And I just really think that the Waldorf approach to education spends time on building students' critical thinking skills. And in my opinion, it's more important than ever in this kind of context. So just wanted to offer that.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
Thank you. I would like to take a little bit of a pause to open for questions from other folks that are zoomed in right now, and you are welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question if you would like to, or if you're more comfortable, you can pop something into the chat. I see some lovely comments from Joy in here. Thank you. And Rami's website is here. And if anyone has any other biographical type things or items of interest, feel free to put them in the chat. Oh, Susan, thank you. This is that article about Sawyer and how eurythmy helps him in his daily work as a Steadicam operator. Any questions out there before we just continue talking? Anything you'd like to hear about from our panel? Okay. I just want to circle back to the high school discussion real quick. One piece of advice that you would give to, we have graduates getting ready. They'll be leaving AWS in June. Some students that have been with us for a very long time. Any one or two pieces of advice that you would want to give to them? Yes, Bennett.
I would say that the first day is not at all a sample of the rest of your year. My first day was really rough just because I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know anybody. And I was worried that would be my entire high school career. But I've really just grown to fit into high school. So it seems bad, but it will get better. I promise.
Thank you for that.
I think for me, I went to Iroquois Central High School. There were lots of good things about that. There were lots of, it was a bit of a culture shock, too, in certain ways. And I would say, Catherine and I spoke briefly about this at one point. Something that really helped me was my involvement in the orchestra. And then I also was involved in, as a violin player, I was part of a chamber music group and the drama club. I played in the pit for various musical productions. And that was my team. I am not a person who has a lot of really great sports skills. And that was where I think a lot of people were making friends or deepening friendships. But I loved my orchestra team and I formed some really good friendships there. And it also gave me like a thread of continuity through all 4 years of high school with other students where we worked together towards shared goals. And I love that. So I have been, I guess that would be my advice. Like just check in with what is like for students, I would say like what makes you really, really super happy. And then let's find a place where you can keep doing that in school. And it's a great way to find probably some really great friends.
Yeah, I would say I joined the volleyball team because it started practicing before high school started. And I didn't end up actually being close friends with anyone on the team, but like I knew those people. I sat with them at lunch when I started school. So if you want a strategy, that's one. It ultimately for like if you just follow the activities that interest you, the right people will surface. Rachel Svensson, one of my most beloved friends, she popped up in she was not in the Waldorf school with us. She was in public school, but we met her uh, in what was it called? International Studies. This was at East Aurora High School, where it was this kind of special program that incorporated German into the mix and history. So yeah, anyway, I remember meeting her um, when she was in class for a little bit, and I liked her, but we were finally on a field trip to go see a play in Buffalo, and Rachel, like we just became friends, and then we have been friends ever since. Yeah.
Nice. So,
Catherine,
yes.
Catherine, I actually thought of a question.
Oh,
I
hi,
do
Lisa.
have. Hi.
Many of you recognize this face. Lisa
Hi,
Caro.
everybody.
Hi,
First,
Miss
I just want
Carol.
to say how great it is to see all of you on the panel, and thank you for being here. So well spoken. I'm just so full of gratitude and respect for all of you and all the things you're doing. My question is, this comes up almost every year, and it's a question that parents ask us: how do we measure success? what is our metric for measurement of success at the Waldorf School? And I'm kind of curious how you would respond to that question. Does that make you think of? How would you answer that? Thank you.
Thank you.
That's such a good question, Mrs. Caro. I think about that. I think the school imbues a lifelong love of learning, which I recognize is hard to measure. But I think if we looked at the data, if we had a chance to learn about the life steps taken by every student who has graduated from this school, I think we would probably see a lot of people who continue to follow a path of learning and growth. And I just know that from talking to my peers and my dear friends and the amazing people on this panel. I think that for sure. And in my opinion, I think there's also like a trust in oneself and a certain self-sufficiency that I attribute to to the skills I got to grow and build and be challenged by at the Waldorf School, including handworks. We could talk about this forever, and I don't want to take up, but if something breaks in my life, and often it involves textiles, and often I kind of know how to fix it. But that's real. That's like a way, as an environmentalist, I can keep stuff out of the waste stream, but also like as a person, I can take care of myself and my life. And I think self-sufficiency is there, and I'll figure out how to measure it.
Plus, you can really impress your friends when you sew something back on. I mean, that's, yeah, pretty rare. Way to go, Lisa. You're a great teacher.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. When you offered this question, yeah, I love Susan's response regarding like that aspect of like a love of learning, and I 100% agree with that. And I think for me, like in regards to this question of like how would you measure success? I think for me, it's more qualitative rather than quantitative. So it's more so like these qualities of like curiosity, resilience, like that love of learning, maybe like self-directed learning, and just, yeah, really like engaging with life in all its different ways. And like being able to connect with others, like interpersonal skills and stuff like that. So it really is more so like a bunch of different qualities rather than like a quantitative sort of measurement for me.
I might be misremembering this, but I think that maybe starting in seventh or eighth grade, we got some kind of grades. Catherine, is that accurate? I could be misremembering, but I'd say before seventh, eighth grade, those earlier years, and actually thinking of handworks class with Lisa Caro and really all our classes, I think the metric was, did you do your best? Because everyone was good at different things naturally, and I frankly I was not. I'm still not great at handworks. Like anything kind of soft and malleable, I have a hard time with. But uh, every one of the teachers knew whether you were, putting real full effort into it. And I think there was an expectation that if you weren't, then you didn't have to be perfect. You didn't have to be the best in the class, but do your best. I think that's a bit of culture shock actually when you go to a public high school and it's kind of just accepted with a big contingent of the student body that you can kind of do just enough to get by and that's sort of it. Like I think that for the early years and but even when you started getting grades in of some form in seventh and eighth grade, that was always the metric. Did you do your best at this? Did you give it your full effort? And kind of regardless of how the finished product came out, I think that was the metric, and I appreciated that.
Thank you for the insight. I think that really speaks to the personalized education as well, and how we opened speaking about the connection between the teachers and the students and how well they get to know that student to then really be able to determine what is the student's best and how can I help the student reach that potential.
And when
But
it,
if anyone's oh, I'm sorry, Rami. Go ahead.
you can finish the thought, I'll hang on to mine. Yeah.
I was just gonna say if any parents or prospective parents are concerned about like later on academic metrics, I would have no concerns about that. Like developing some intrinsic curiosity, ability to ask questions, understanding the why behind assignments, and being able to solve multi-step problems on your own, being adaptable, like that will carry you so far in high school and college and beyond. I think that, that really held true for all of my peers. And as far as like later success metrics, that really wasn't a problem.
I nicely said. The metric that came to me was being yourself, which I would pair with what Peter previously said of and do your best. Um, like that combination is brilliant.
Yes, really beautiful. So I will take another brief pause. If there's any other questions, please feel free to unmute yourself, pop in, or place your question into the chat. And then something I want to move into is a little something we'll call the rapid fire. So just brief little questions and we'll go around and get your answers to all of them, okay? So favorite memory from AWS? Who would like to start?
There's so many.
There's so many, I know it's probably hard to pick one. It's not a quiz though, so there's no wrong answers. But go ahead.
I would definitely say the holiday assembly because I just assumed, oh, that's part of the holidays. That's what you do. But at public school, we didn't do anything like that. I mean, we did have a half day, which was nice. But we just went into the auditorium and the band played a couple songs, but they weren't even holiday themed. And it's kind of like, oh, we don't get to do that anymore.
Mm. I think something that popped into my mind was, which was also mentioned in the chat earlier on, was like when we would go into the woods and play capture the flag, like during gym or during recess, and just like yeah, just like running through the woods and playing a game together was so meaningful and so fun. Yeah.
I have a memory. There's many favorites. I've got to say that because this is merely one, but it's a Mrs. Harrigan memory who is here with us, and we were doing the Canterbury Tales um, for a play, and Amelia was out sick, and Mrs. Harrigan asked me to memorize it. It was like one of the lead parts for a third of the play in a day. And I got to, oh, Amelia was not out sick. Sorry, Zach was out sick. Amelia was who I practiced the part with. She was the counterpart to that part. But we got to miss certain classes to stay in the auditorium and learn that part very last minute. And I just remember like Mrs. Harrigan knew I could do it, and I did it. And it was so much fun. And from the plays to the songs, I still remember like 50% of the lines from so many of the plays and a lot of the songs. Like I'm 38 now and they're still in my head without effort. That's like that stayed. Yeah.
That's great. Susan
Yeah.
or Peter, favorite memory?
Yes, there are many, but when we were learning about Sir Isaac Newton's scientific breakthroughs, I got to play Sir Isaac Newton in a play and chuck around a paper mache apple, and it fell and it rolled into the first row, and it was like hilarious. But I just remember like I had so much fun, and I bring it up because certain scientists are people to me because of how we got to learn about them. And thank you, Mrs. Harrigan, for that. And thank you to our wonderful teachers for that. But it was so much fun. The plays were very special.
Yeah.
I
Peter?
agree with all these answers, and really impossible question, Catherine. Like, just I'm trying to run through the Rolodex, but just to pick one, is it Michaelmas? Where are the lanterns in the woods? Which which event was that?
That's
Or
Martin,
there's some kind of
the lantern
Martinmas,
plot.
excuse me. All the kind of stuff like that, looking back, it feels magical. Like genuinely at the time it felt magical, it still feels magical looking back on that. I think uh, magic in childhood is kind of a vanishing commodity, and it's just, it's incredible to have that as a little kid and not have it, you know, everybody's doing it, so people aren't making fun of it or mocking it, and it's not gonna, you can't replace that. I think all those sort of seasonal festivals and ceremonies, and winter fair is another example. Like there was some real magic around, especially those early years that I still remember fondly.
Nice, thank you. All right, next question. One thing you would want families to know about AWS and Waldorf education? Obviously, again, there's many, but just give me a top one.
I mean, I would say an environment, sorry, an environment where you can really be yourself. Um, like is one where you can fully absorb what you're learning. You're not self-conscious. You're just in it. And that's due to the faculty and the philosophy and the people. Yeah. Susan.
Cool. Joy, would you like to unmute yourself and speak? Or raise your hand.
I have a quick question, but I also realized I interrupted everyone sharing, so I can just wait till people go.
They might be relieved that you're interrupting.
It might be changing the topic a lot, but
Go ahead, Joy.
one thing I'd love to hear about too is and this is for more than just Rami, but I know in particular Rami, you've worked, oh, and Rachel too, actually. But at Rami, I know you've worked with Waldorf students as an adult. So I would just be curious. I would be curious to hear your thoughts on what you observe in Waldorf students, also from the perspective of being a teacher of them, too, and working broadly with students, not just Waldorf, but Waldorf, and what you observe.
They're so incredibly intelligent, like every single one of them. And I currently with art work with fifth, sixth, and seventh, but I've spent time assisting in first grade and a little bit of time with early childhood and kind of every grade through in elementary school through eighth grade. And I'm amazed at ju the different kinds of intelligence that come out of the first graders, for example. And I am ashamed to say that like prior to working with children, I had this stereotype in my head that like at age 5, like there's not much going on there. And actually from my own memory as a 5-year-old, like I know that's not true. But I especially with 90s TV shows, you can see children really getting stereotyped as kind of little idiots. Like they and it's
Yeah.
yeah, when you take them and put them, and I'm sure they also have amazing parents, but you put them in this environment where they're just appreciated for where they are in their development. They really come alive and they're brilliant in all kinds of ways. It's essentially it's not boring. It's not, oh, where are the adults? It's like no, let's spend time with these very bright beings.
Thank you for that. Did anyone else want to share one thing that they would like families to know about AWS or Waldorf? Perhaps that's yours, Rami.
You're gonna end up with some curious, emotionally intelligent kids. I mean, my classmates went into all different careers and industries, and like across the board, that's a
Mhm.
consistent quality.
I don't know, the thing that's coming up for me is just like it was it was and is like one of the best things in my entire life.
Thank you. Violet, do you find that your graduating class was curious, and emotionally intelligent kids.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Favorite
Kath-
class from AWS?
Favorite class? Oh, that's hard.
Subject, I should say.
I really loved woodworking. That was empowering. I got to use tools that to me were kind of dangerous, kind of risky, and I I still have my stool. I saw someone else mention their stool that they made in woodwork in the chat, and I just I think that kind of stays with you. That was a good challenge at the right time, and I loved that. And I also, to your earlier question, Catherine, I just wanted to say that as far as things I would say to parents, I have come to realize that the practice of creating a main lesson book is really powerful. And I still remember things I found a way to describe to myself in my main lesson book. I think it works. It's a good practice. I still have mine. Um, and I think it was the beginning of becoming a learner who tries to figure out her own way of keeping track of what she's learning. Um, when I entered my master's program, I brought paper and pens to classes, and most of my peers took notes on their laptops, which is fine. We all have our tools, but I realized I'm still creating main lesson books. I'm still writing down what I'm learning and drawing some little pictures, and that really helps me retain information. So I think it's a powerful thing at the school.
Yeah, it's great. Anyone else? Favorite subject from AWS?
Definitely handwork. That was my favorite.
I I have to share, I was at a fundraiser Saturday evening for Earth Spirit Educational Services, which is this amazing local organization that has been providing outdoor education to youth in Western New York for 46 years. And they do some work with our students. And one of the items up for auction was donated by Violet, and it was a beautiful handmade knitted octopus that was gorgeous.
Thank you.
So thank you, Violet.
Yeah, I mean it's extremely hard to pick because I literally loved everything, like learning everything and anything. Um, I guess yeah, I mean it's really hard for me to pick between these two. I really loved handworks and woodwork. Just like doing things with my hands, like it was really wonderful and just like very empowering as well.
I'm going to give a shout out to games class, gym class, because learning to just incorporate movement on a daily basis is it's super healthy. It was so much fun. It was interactive. You like learning about each other's psychology while playing a game and running around. Yeah.
How about favorite festival? Peter mentioned the Lantern Walk. We talked about the holiday assembly. Any other seasonal activities that really stand out or things you've carried through life?
I really loved May Day. Like I remember like I really loved when one of the classes would bring out the maypole and we would each of the different classes would learn a specific sort of dance to like weave the pieces of cloth together on the maypole and like the music and just like the community gathering together in like a joyful, connected way, making like the flower wreath like crowns and there was like a May Day cake. Yeah, it was a really wonderful, like joyful community gathering and celebration.
Yeah, I loved May Day and I loved the winter fair. And I remember the Enchanted Forest very fondly, and it was just pure magic. I think I believed in magic a little bit longer than a lot of other of my peers, but it was very special. And now as a parent, I am so amazed by what our parents and our teachers created there.
Thank you. We are going to be wrapping up shortly, and I would like to know, do you have any final thoughts for anyone considering Waldorf education?
Hmm.
do
Can
it.
can I add something, Catherine?
Please.
It's me. I'm not officially on the panel, but I'll just pop in to say that uh, as I now go into my 40s, one of the things that happens a lot is you still hear some of the traumatized public school goers like talking about stuff that was like really hard for them in school. And my partner of 15 years is one of them. We talk still a lot about like how hard school was and how like so many early traumas that happened, and like even things like him not liking fall because fall reminds him of going back to school. And there's this sort of deep seated dread that I feel that a lot of like full on adults feel. And I just think, I mean, there's all of the positives of Waldorf, but then there's also like the avoiding the trauma that school should never be, and that learning should never be. And so it's, I mean, it's like a win. It's like a win in every sense of the word. Like you're kind of creating patterns that last people for their lives, and you're also avoiding what everyone should be trying to avoid, which is inflicting harm and dread and sort of negative associations with learning in school. So uh, yeah, I keep, we talk a lot about how we wish he had been a Waldorf student, how he would have been such a perfect Waldorf student, and all of the things that he would have benefited from, and some of the stuff that everyone mentioned, like handwork and woodwork. People that are neurodivergent in different ways, like that they need, like everyone really, but there's different ways that actually just is the way people need to learn. And I think, yeah, I could go on, but I will stop myself.
Thank you, Joy. Joy, can you
Want to
just
know?
remind us, you were in our first graduating class, is that correct? Do I have that right,
Yes,
Joy?
yes, I was in the first class in 2000 that
Thank you.
graduated.
Go ahead,
All right,
Joy.
Catherine. I'm really curious if does anyone in the audience have uh, any burning questions, any awkward questions, hard questions? Like fire away. Now's your chance. We're here for it.
I love that. Thank you. Feel free to
Yeah,
pop
we
in.
sold it. We sold it really well. Good job, guys.
Well, feel free to pop in as we close up, but does anyone have any other final thoughts they would like to share for anyone that would be considering our school or Waldorf education in general?
I think like maybe just something like even if or even though it might be unfamiliar like to you, or like it's definitely very different than like public school, for example. I think I just want to encourage people to approach it with a sense of curiosity and openness, and really, yeah, really like learning about it and like the value and the beauty in it. Um, and yeah, hopefully like everything that we've shared today also is like encouraging and can help sort of give people a little glimpse into what it is and the impact that it has had on all of us. But yeah, I think that's just what I would say.
Thank you.
I would say if you send your child somewhere like to an environment where they love learning and they're looking forward to going to school every day, that will last them their entire lives.
Yeah, I agree with Rami. I profoundly looked forward to the start of school every year, and I remember being really happy and really engaged and really excited every time we started a new block. And it makes me a little sad to acknowledge it, but I agree with Joy. I have talked to a lot of dear friends who, when I express that, they're just is very confused. I just know a lot of people who don't like really fondly look back on their experiences in elementary school and middle school. So I now know that's a tremendous gift. But yeah, I think it's a place where a lot of joy happens while learning. And yeah, that's what I would say. Catherine, thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, we're just about at 8:30. I thank you all so much for your time and your insights and for bringing these great thoughts to this discussion. And we're very proud and honored to have you as an alum from our school. So thank you very much.
Thank you
Thanks for
so much.
having us.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you,
Great to see everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.